One ordinary afternoon, a stranger asked me a single question. And in that moment, I realized something devastating. I had completely disappeared. This is my story. I was the kind of woman who followed the rules. Always had been. I married young, raised 2 beautiful daughters, and stayed loyal to my husband through every season of life. Through the hard years and the easy ones. Through the boring Tuesdays and the exhausting Decembers. I believed in routine. In quiet devotion. In loving the life you build, even when it shrinks around you. Love, to me, wasn't thrilling. It wasn't butterflies or poetry or stolen glances across a crowded room. It was steady. Familiar. Safe. But something happened to me not long ago, something I still struggle to explain. It wasn't planned. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. And yet, it changed me completely. Please. Learn from my story before it's too late. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late autumn. One of those gray, forgettable days where the hours seemed to drag like wet clothes across the floor. My car had broken down again. 3rd time that month. And my husband, Tom, was buried in back-to-back meetings until evening. That's when Ethan offered me a ride. Ethan was Tom's colleague. I knew him vaguely from company dinners and holiday parties over the years. He was younger than Tom, maybe late 30s. Calm. Polite. The kind of man who actually listened when you spoke. I never thought much about him before. But I accepted the ride without hesitation. It was just a ride home from the grocery store. Nothing more. Or so I thought. He loaded my bags into the trunk of his silver sedan without being asked. The car was cleaner than I expected, neat, organized, unhurried. Just like him. I settled into the passenger seat, and he pulled out of the parking lot with easy confidence. "Are you sure this isn't out of your way?" I asked, gripping my purse in my lap. He smiled gently. "Not at all. I live just 10 minutes past your place. Gives me a good excuse to leave the office early." His voice had a warmth to it. Unhurried. Soft. It made me feel, oddly safe. That feeling surprised me. Because I hadn't felt that kind of safety, in a very long time. With Tom, everything had become transactional. Grocery lists. Utility bills. Dry cleaning. Dentist appointments. I didn't resent him for it. I truly didn't. That's just what marriage becomes after 30 years, isn't it? You stop seeing each other as people. You start seeing each other as systems. As functions. As habits that fill the house. The sun broke through the clouds as we drove through town. It lit up the dashboard in a warm amber glow. I almost forgot what sunlight felt like on my face. Ethan glanced at me sideways, his hand relaxed on the steering wheel. "You seem quiet," he said. I shrugged. "Just one of those days. You know how it is." He didn't press. He didn't pry. He just nodded, and kept his eyes on the road. But his presence filled the car in a way that was hard to ignore. Not romantic. Just present. Attentive. Real. We talked about small things at first. Traffic. The weather. A new bakery that had opened nearby. And then he told me a story about Tom accidentally flooding the office break room while trying to fix the coffee machine. I burst out laughing. Genuinely laughing. The kind of laugh that comes from somewhere deep and forgotten. "He didn't tell me that part," I said, wiping tears from the corner of my eye. Ethan grinned. "He probably left out the part where he blamed it on the intern." I laughed again. And then, the laughter settled into something quieter. Something warm. We turned onto my street as the afternoon light turned golden. The houses looked washed in soft amber. Familiar. Peaceful. Then we hit a red light. We sat in silence for a few seconds. And something about that stillness felt different. Like the moment had taken a slow, deliberate breath. Ethan turned toward me. Not dramatically. Not like in a movie. Just enough to meet my eyes. "Can I ask you something, Emma?" he said quietly. I nodded, unsure why my pulse suddenly felt so loud. He paused. Then gently, he asked, "Do you ever wonder if you're still seen?" The question hit me somewhere I hadn't visited in years. Somewhere I had sealed shut without even realizing it. "Seen?" I repeated softly. He nodded. "I mean, as more than someone's wife. Someone's mother. Just you." I looked away. Toward the window. Toward the houses rolling past in blurry gold. I tried to keep my voice steady. All the time, I whispered. The light turned green. But neither of us moved for just a moment. He waited. As if giving me space to say more. I didn't. I couldn't. And then, gently, he pressed his foot to the gas and the car rolled forward. We didn't speak for several minutes after that. The air between us had changed. Thicker. Quieter. Charged with something neither of us named. But what happened next? I never saw coming. When we pulled into my driveway, my porch light was flickering. I made a mental note to ask Tom to fix it, already knowing I would probably just do it myself. I reached for the door handle. But before I opened it, Ethan said quietly, "Would it be okay if I walked you to the door?" The rational part of me, the part that managed schedules, remembered everyone's medication, and remembered to send birthday cards on time, that part said no. But a quieter part of me, older, softer, more honest, said yes. I nodded. Sure. We walked up the short path together. The silence between us wasn't awkward. It was fragile. Like thin ice that neither of us wanted to crack. I fumbled with my keys at the door. "I'm sorry if I crossed a line back there," he said, standing a step behind me. "You didn't," I said quickly, turning to face him. "It's just hard to know what to do with a moment like that." He nodded slowly. His hands were in his pockets. His expression was open. Honest. "I think sometimes," he said, "moments like that exist just to remind us we're still human. Still capable of feeling things." There it was again. That calm, quiet honesty. The kind that didn't demand anything, but made you want to give everything. "Thank you," I said. My voice caught slightly on the word. He smiled. Soft and genuine. "Have a good evening, Emma." "You too, Ethan." He turned and walked back to his car. And I stood there on that flickering porch, with my key in my hand, and my world quietly rearranging itself. When I stepped inside, the house was dim and still. The scent of lemon cleaner hung faintly in the air. I set my purse on the counter. And I just stood there in the kitchen. Listening to the silence. Nothing had happened. Not really. No lines crossed. No promises made. No kiss stolen in the dark. And yet, something had happened. I felt it in the tightness in my chest. In the warmth behind my eyes. In the way my hands didn't quite know what to do with themselves. Ethan had seen me. And suddenly, I couldn't unsee myself. Little did I know, this was only the beginning. 2 days later, my phone buzzed. A message from Ethan. "Emma, I hope this isn't crossing any lines. I'm headed out for coffee in a bit if you'd like to join." No pressure at all. I stared at those words for a long, long time. I could have ignored it. I should have, maybe. But I didn't. I typed back 2 words. "Where and when?" We met at a small coffee shop on the corner of 5th and Lawson. It had ivy crawling up the brick outside and windows that fogged gently in the cool morning air. Cozy. Quiet. Hidden from the world. I arrived early and chose a booth near the back. Partly to feel safe. Partly to stay unseen. When Ethan walked in, he looked genuinely surprised to find me already there. But then he smiled that quiet smile, and something in my chest loosened. He slid into the seat across from me. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I almost didn't," I admitted honestly. "I know," he said simply. "We talked for almost an hour. About nothing important. And yet, everything. Our childhoods. Our favorite meals. The music we played late at night when sleep wouldn't come." I told him I used to dance barefoot alone in the kitchen when my daughters were small. Just to feel alive. Just to remember I had a body. A heartbeat. A self. He listened. Really listened. And then he smiled like that was the most beautiful thing he had heard all week. When we finally stood to leave, we hesitated. That now familiar pause that settled between us like a soft, delicate veil. He held the door open for me. I stepped out into the cool afternoon light. "Emma," he said, his voice low and certain. "If you ever need to talk, or just breathe differently for a while, I'm here." I held his gaze for one heartbeat longer than I should have. "Thank you," I said. We walked away in opposite directions on that sidewalk. No touching. No promises. No drama. Just an understanding. But that night, as I lay in bed beside Tom, his back turned to me, his breathing slow and even, something stirred inside me. Not guilt. Not regret. Just awareness. Quiet, aching, undeniable awareness. Something had changed. And for the first time in years, I had absolutely no idea what came next. A week passed. I didn't see Ethan. Didn't reach out. Didn't hear from him. Not because I didn't want to, but because I needed to understand what was happening inside me. This wasn't about Ethan. It never really was. It was about the woman I had slowly stopped being, the woman who used to read poetry at midnight. Who made beautiful messes in the kitchen. Who danced barefoot on cold tile just to feel the ground beneath her feet. That woman hadn't disappeared. She was just waiting. Quietly. Patiently. Hoping someone would notice she was still there. One evening, after Tom went upstairs to watch the news, I stayed behind in the kitchen. I wiped the same already clean counter over and over again. My reflection stared back at me from the dark window. Older. Softer. But still here. Still, something. I thought about who I had been before all this. Before the marriage settled into habit. Before the girls left for college. Before silence became our primary language. And I made a decision. I walked to the dining room table. "Tom," I said quietly. "I need to talk to you." He came downstairs. We sat across from each other, just like we had when we were young and broke and full of dreams. I looked at him. Really looked at the man I had built my entire life beside. "I've been feeling invisible," I said. He blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I don't think you really see me anymore." I paused. "And I don't think I've been letting you." He sat back slowly. "Where is this coming from?" "From a place inside me," I said carefully, "that has been quiet for far too long." He didn't say anything for a long time. Neither did I. But for the first time in years, we were truly present with each other. Not talking about bills. Not discussing schedules. Just two people sitting in the truth of a moment they had been avoiding. Finally, Tom rubbed his jaw the way he always did when he didn't have the words. "I thought we were comfortable," he said softly. "We are," I replied. "But Tom, I want more than comfortable." I looked at him steadily. "I want to feel alive again." The silence that followed was heavy. But not hopeless. It was the kind of silence that holds space for something new to grow. Eventually, he looked up at me. "What do you need?" he asked. And those three words, those three simple, honest words, cracked something open in my chest. "I don't know yet," I whispered. "But I need to start finding out." The next morning, I went for a walk. No makeup. No destination. No to-do list in my pocket. Just sunlight and cool air and the sound of my own footsteps. Halfway through my route, I passed the little coffee shop on 5th and Lawson. My feet stopped on their own. I stood there for a moment, watching people drift in and out through the ivy-framed door. Then I walked inside. Ethan wasn't there. And somehow, I was perfectly okay with that. I ordered my coffee.